entrepreneurs, we're constantly looking for ways to solve problems that are coming. And if business is really, really good, we've seen entrepreneurs, I've been guilty of it before, that we create a problem.
Representing Franchise Secrets, Erik Van Horn. Lane, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for having me on. I'm pumped.
So am I. I've been waiting to record this podcast for a while now. You are now officially a Front Street brand. We are now officially working with Modern PURAIR. And so this has been great. We have some mutual connections like Cameron Harold and folks like that. So I've been super excited to have this podcast. So you ready to jump
I'm
into it?
really, yeah, I'm excited to be on. Yeah, for sure.
Why don't we give the audience a bit of your background? So, the family story, how you got involved
Yeah.
in the business. Why don't we start there?
So I was born in Calgary, Alberta, here in Canada. I think most people in the States know that city only because they had the Olympics in like 1988 or something, right? Otherwise, nobody would know. I grew up in a home where my dad was a entrepreneur. It still is. I shouldn't say he's still alive, right? So is an entrepreneur. And he was in Calgary, Alberta in 1969. He was an HVAC journeyman, gas fitter, plumber, right? And his company that he worked with, he had a partner, so they were self-employed, started looking, getting requests from large commercial clients for duct cleaning, funny enough. This is back in like 1970. Indoor air quality wasn't even a thing. So they looked around and there was a truck, a company building trucks called Pringle, I think, Pringle Power Vac out of the US somewhere. They bought a truck, brought it up to Calgary, and they were the first guys in duct cleaning in Western Canada. So we call my dad still to this day when he's at team events and things. He's 82 now and he comes around to some of these things. We call him the godfather of duct cleaning here in Canada. So, which is kind of cool. So as a kid, growing up, we lived in Calgary till I was 6 or 7 years old. And I remember them just being duct cleaning trucks outside and service trucks outside because the whole basement of our home was their tool crib, I guess, whatever you want to call it. And my mom would answer phones. And then my dad sold that business in 1982. And he moved to Kelowna, British Columbia, here where I live still today. And he had sold that, grown, scaled it, actually sold that business to my uncle. And my dad got into a few other things, but now I'm in grade 5. And I show up one day in grade 5 after school at my house, and my dad, there's a power vac truck, again, another duct cleaning truck on our driveway. And I grew up then, and my dad had bought that. And I guess this was an old way of doing franchising in Canada where these guys sold and awarded power vac to a VacuFlow, so a central vac retail store. The old way of franchising, you just, I guess, award it, no support it, right? And they sold it to him. And these guys couldn't make a go of it. I wonder why, right? Because like they're used to selling vac systems. So my dad was driving by this power vac truck, this duct truck on the side of the road, and it said for sale. And he went and talked to them, and the bank had called the loan. And literally, franchisor didn't even he just did a transfer and boom, they approved him and off they went, right? So that's grade 5. I started washing the truck for my dad over summer jobs. Like he wanted to keep me busy, I guess. And I started cleaning and washing vents and registers with him. And my mom would be the lady answering the phones in the office. And that's how I grew up. So fast forward grade 11, grade 12. I got my girlfriend pregnant in high school. And that kind of derailed. I wanted to be a pilot. And looking back, I didn't have the grades to be a pilot anyway. But my dad came to me and he's like, why don't you buy another duct cleaning truck and you can join this wonderful family venture? And so I did. I took out $100,000 loan and I bought another duct truck, and we split Kelowna, where I live, the Okanagan Valley, into 2 regions. My dad did the south part of it and I did the north. Okay. So it was good. I got to run my own incorporation company. All the revenue I did on that, I did. But my dad was a one guy in a duct truck because he had grown and scaled the business already. And I hated the work. Like I'm not a technician, like getting your hands dirty, and like I full respect anybody that's tech. I love them all in pure air. It's great, but like that's not my thing. But I was like making a living, and I married that girl, and had a baby, and I was like, okay, well, here's what I'm doing. Fast forward 3 or 4 years. My dad had some health issues. This is 1996 now. And so he came to me and he's like, I think we should put the business up for sale. I was like, yeah, I think we should. Cause he had taught me that you can't grow and scale that. And you'd have to be the technician in the truck. I was like, well, I don't want to be, right? I don't enjoy it. So sold the business, 1996, had a 5-year non-compete. Lane quickly learned life lessons, family business, and going into business with friends in the corporate world. So in the corporate world, I went into a furniture retail store, funny enough, got hired by this company and walked into this furniture store day one as this assistant manager training program. My manager was fired the very first day. Very first day I was in there for selling furniture out the back door.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
walk in, yeah, I walk in and I've got the sales team, 30 people on the floor, most of them 3 times my age, because well, not really, but twice my age. I'm all of 21, right? No real business world experience. And I hopped into the job doing, I really enjoyed coaching and mentoring, and I loved furniture sales for some reason. I think it's a really clean industry, high margin. It was cool. So the head office bumps me into this manager role right away because like there isn't one. And I grew that store, and they were expansion mode. They bought 2 other brands and they asked me to become a regional district manager with them. So I moved to Edmonton, Alberta, and started opening up these locations for them in Western Canada. And at one point, I was responsible for about 14 stores and I don't know, 14 million in revenue and all these things. That was cool. But what I learned out of that was 80-hour work weeks happen in the corporate world and that, and then they just change markers for you when you hit objectives and KPIs. And I didn't own any of it. And coming from a self-employment background, that was tough for me. So a couple of my friends and I, we got approached in the furniture game by a great large furniture company. And they said, hey, why don't you start your own store? And so we did. I got 2 buddies together from high school. And we started, and we had the rights for Western Canada. And day one of opening, we launched it. I got the top 5 salespeople in the city. We launched it. It was a beautiful flagship location for this furniture store. And my ex-employer came after me with a conflict of interest. So I had to step away from the store for 8 months. And when I came back 8 months later, I learned again difference between being in business with friends sometimes and picking the right friends to be in business and family. And my friends, even though the business was cash flow positive, hadn't paid our supplier agreement properly. The supplier called the PIMSy agreement. Lane lost $250,000 in 8 months, came out with his tail in between my legs, was divorced, blah, blah, blah. So along that journey, I moved back to Kelowna. 5 years was up. I owed my grandma 150 grand from that debacle. I owed my mom and dad 100 grand. And a good friend of mine that runs a large restoration company here in the Okanagan Valley called me up and said, hey, your 5 years is up. Are you ever going to get back into the game? I'm like, duck cleaning? No. Why? He's like, well, because we're really growing. They're $30 million restoration company at that time. And he's like, last year we gave this amount of revenue to that. And I was like, oh man. So I went and talked to my dad. My dad was now running a blind cleaning business, ultrasonic blind cleaning. So again, solopreneur, one guy in a truck doing blind cleaning. Cool. Had a good thing going. And my dad's like, how are you going to pay us back? So I knew there it was. It's where he's going to lead with. So Lane was forced back into the industry again, May 2001, and we called it Modern Furnace and Air Duct Cleaning here in Kelowna. We bought a brand new duct truck for 150 grand, leveraged an LLC against my dad's house. And I became the be all, the end all. I was answering the phones and the technician because my dad refused to allow me to hire a technician because he just didn't see it that way. So Lane moved back, single dad, full-time custody of both my kids. They were 8 and 5, living here in Kelowna, startup mode, answering the phones, doing the bookings, doing all of the appointments, doing all of the cleaning, just to try to pay my parents back. And you know what? That's really tough to do when you owe $250,000. Is the business, if you can't grow and scale it, like how are you going to pay that back, right? So doing that for 2 years, elephant in the room with my dad obviously was, Dad, like, let me hire somebody. Let me teach somebody how to do this, all these things. 2.5, 3 years went by. We would get into verbal arguments back and forth. And finally in 2004, I looked at him and said, give me 90 days. Let me hire somebody and give me 90 days. And if this doesn't work, you'll never hear me whine about it again. So he did. So we hired my first technician. 3 months later, we went to truck 2. 6 months later, we went to truck 3. Moved out of a home office, went into our small business center. For the first time, I had an office away from home. Being a single dad with kids and intertwining things was really difficult. So separation was important. And in 2005, sitting in that little office, that's when I read, 2005, an article in a it was either Profit Magazine or Canadian Business, forget which one, front sitting on my coffee table in the small office, and I'll always remember, it's a picture of a guy named Brian Scudamore in this junk removal truck. And I open it up and I start looking through it and I'm like, oh, this guy's based in Vancouver. Oh, and he had 3 junk removal trucks. Oh, and he dropped out of university. Oh, he's doing 100 million a year. What? And he franchised this. And in that article that said in 1999, I took a fragmented mom and pop industry and set out to be the FedEx of junk removal. And that was my first "bing," where it's like, oh man, nobody has done that in our IAQ. When I say IAQ, it's indoor air quality. Nobody's done that in our space. So that light bulb, that went into my head, and that was probably the first time I was truly re-engaged back into the business where I was like, this is something that I think I could do. So Lane's now married, remarried, right? Have a baby. My wife's name is April. This is 2006-ish, and I come home every day ranting. Probably the biggest fan of 1-800 Got Junk and Brian Scudamore. Like, 'cause it was like they were getting Oprah and like they're just cool story. She got sick and tired of it. 3 or 4 months of me doing that every day. Came home one day and she's like, "Lane, I've got some good news for you." She's like, "You're gonna go meet Brian next week in Vancouver." I got through to his assistant, got an hour, and I got to go down in 2006 and with Brian at a Starbucks. I was shaking like a leaf in a windstorm. Met him in the Granville Tower downtown. Remember walking him and I took a little video tape recorder and said, "Can I record?" And asked him what he did right in franchising, what he did wrong, what he would do over again. And of course, being a total entrepreneur, only listened to what I wanted to hear, didn't follow all of his advice. But that started the trajectory on how do I do it. And the very first thing he talked about was like, you have to franchise properly in home services. How long have you been doing it? I remember this rule. I'm like, well, I've been in it most of my life. He's like, great. Because you have to go through ups and downs. So at least 8 years until you can franchise your concepts properly. Otherwise, how can you teach and coach through ebbs and flows? Fair. So that checked the box. Then he's like, "And you need an inbound call center like we have." I was like, "What do you mean?" Like, "Man, it's me answering phones." He's like, "You need to have that to grow and scale." He's like, "That to me is so critical." He's like, "Have you ever tried to call around like garage door removal companies or it's like that's relying on you. They don't answer the phones." I was like, "Oh." So I came back home and I started thinking, how are we going to do this? And 6 months later, we hired a remarketing, a brand agency, and they got in like Disney Imagineers do, where you sit with these people. They were really, really cool. And probably 80 or 100 hours in, every couple weeks, you sit with them 4 or 5 hours. They get into your head, talk about how you want to do things. And this was a pivotal moment too, where they came to me and I don't know, we were like 3 months into talks, and the guy sitting there, he's like, "So let me get this straight. You guys clean the air in buildings and homes." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "But you have duct trucks outside running diesel PTOs that pollute the air." And this is '07. I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's our industry." And he's like, "Buddy, like that doesn't work. Like you can't. How can you pollute the air outside when you're cleaning the air inside?" I'm like, "Well, that's just the way the industry works." And he's like, "Yeah, but like that doesn't make sense." So portable units in 2006, there was 3 or 4 of them coming out and to clean HVAC systems. And we bought 3 of them, brought them all in, tried them out, and none of them could perform the way we did. So that was the first stop before we started franchising. We need to figure out how to build our Pure Air vac unit that would be exclusive to a franchise system, like Croc did, right? With the milkshake machine, and McDonald's, or I guess the McDonald's brothers did before they sold to Croc. And so we've started that journey, and man, like that was difficult on its own. Today, to this day, we're now on revision like 18, where we wanted to crack the code of can we have more suction than a duct truck? And we do, and now we don't have any emissions because it runs off electricity, which is pretty cool. So that was one of the bigger differentiators. Anyway, long story short, that's the journey. 2008, we awarded our first franchise off Brian's advice to a very close city, Vernon, 45 minutes from me. That's one of the things he taught me too. His first franchise, I think, in 1-800 was Paul Guys in Toronto, where he circled the whole GTA and said, "Here you go." It's like, don't do that. You can't control brand. So we awarded Vernon, and yeah, off we went. So then the recession hit in '08, and now I'm sitting there trying to build a call center and franchise support and all of these things. But we sold and awarded 3 or 4 that first 2 years, and then continued our journey. And now today in Canada, we have 22 franchises open, 38 territories in Canada. We're coast to coast, Halifax to Vancouver Island. So we're Canada's only complete coast to coast indoor air quality service provider. We skip a few provinces, but we are coast to coast. And when we started franchising, our system sales were around 600,000, and now we do that almost every 4.5 days. So it's grown and scaled, right? Significantly. So there's my story.
Attention, franchisors and franchisees. There are two really important resources that I want to share with you that will help you avoid costly mistakes and increase your enterprise value. The first is our free Facebook group. It's a community that has over 4,000 franchisees and franchisors in it. When somebody asks a question, they get honest and authentic answers from multiple perspectives. You could join the group for free over at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. The second resource I want to share with you is if you're a franchisee and you want to be around a community of successful Zs and other brands and in other industries, this is why I created the Franchisee Mastermind. If you want access to the best single and multi-unit owners to know what they're doing, or if you want to be around other multi-brand owners, then you'll want to check out my Franchisee Mastermind. The reason why people join is they want access to my Rolodex, my connections, to each other. They want a shortcut success, both short-term and long-term. Links will be in the show notes or at scalablefranchise.com. I love it. I also had a friend a while back lose a bunch of money in a bad hotel deal that he did. And he's like, Erik, he was, borderline depressed, lost a significant amount of his net worth. Just feeling like he's a failure because he lost a lot of money. He had other businesses that were successful, but this one just was horrible. And then a few months later, he's like, I just had this amazing conversation with an investor for one of his businesses. And he said, the investor, very successful guy, said, yeah, I'll look at investing with you because you've been kicked in the face. You've been knocked down. You know what it's like. Not everything turns to gold. He's like, if that hadn't happened, I probably wouldn't be giving you the investment that I'm about ready to give you. It was something similar
Love
to
that.
that. And so for you, as you've, openly share your story about the times that have been tough, as you've talked to other people about that, what kind of reaction do you get from other successful entrepreneurs when you talk about the tough times or the things that didn't go right?
Well, I think that's what makes you the entrepreneur, right? I mean, if if it was an easy journey, everybody would do it. We speak about that a lot. And a great mindset coach of mine a few years ago taught me a great thing. It's like how you deal with the hard. If you know being an entrepreneur that hard is going to come, which it does because it's hard, building and growing any business is a difficult thing. I don't care how small or how big, it's difficult. How do you deal with the hard? So if you know every day and every week that there's some hard coming, be grateful when there's days where you're in cruise control mode and can be, but you know around that next corner, there's something coming and it's going to be hard. And what makes what makes a really good entrepreneur is how good are they at that solution? And if you can figure out how to remove yourself from the white noise and look high level strategically at what's happening and come up with a solution, that's a magic hack. And yeah, if you don't have hard, I mean, Dan Martell speaks about it in coaching where most entrepreneurs that are successful, for some reason, not all, but for some, have grown up in chaos. Think about that for a second. And it's probably true in a lot of ways. There's this chaos. We're attached to it. So entrepreneurs, we're constantly looking for ways to solve problems that are coming. And if business is really, really good, we've seen entrepreneurs, I've been guilty of it before, that we create a problem when it's going. So my whole lens, I'm with you, even when looking at potential franchisees, passion's important, right? For sure. They have to be passionate about, they have to have a strong why. Like, what's their why? What are you wanting to get out of this in 5 to 10 years? That needs to align. Like, not just a vision, but your why. What's driving you when you have sleepless nights, which you will have being an entrepreneur, and you wake up at 3 in the morning and you're like, oh, how am I going to do this tomorrow? Like, what's your why? You need to get back to that to know on what's going to get you through. But if people haven't had hard, I'm not saying that they can't. do it, but you need to be prepared and you need to have some hard or gone through a hard, whether it's in sports, a hard loss, like teams, the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, you ask Connor McDavid last year as the captain of the Oilers, 1 goal away from winning the Stanley Cup. Netflix has just come out with that documentary on that team, and he's in the team after the game. They just released it in September, kept the 3 months out. You watch that emotion in there where he like you can't put that in words. That's hard, but they need to go through that to become a champion and win. And that's entrepreneurship. So I really believe that, yeah, the more scars that you have and the more you learn from the hard and ensure that you don't make that same mistake again, the better you become.
That's great. So franchisees out there, franchise buyers that haven't, been an entrepreneur, owned a franchise yet, or you're a franchisee going through the hard right now, like this should be you should be thinking about this and tackling that hard. I was just on a podcast as a guest, and we were talking about something similar. And one of my early mentors, we used to tell his franchisees, which I was a franchisee, said, they're like, I think it's 10 two-letter words. If it is to be, it's up to me. That's the mindset that a franchisee needs to have. Even though you do get support from your franchisor, you do get all of the stuff from the franchisor. At the end of the day, this is my business. This is my location. This is my truck. This is my market. These are my employees. This success is going to be because of me. The franchisor will have a role, but that was my mindset always as a franchisee. And it's
You were
easy.
probably a top were you a top
Yeah,
franchisee in that brand? Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
It's easy to put blame on the franchisor. And trust me, I know franchisors out there that are not great franchisors. I've been a part of some franchisors that have not been the best franchisor, but I always took the blame myself. I didn't put enough of whatever it was into it. I didn't hire the right people. I didn't market the right way. I didn't give it enough attention because it's so easy to blame the franchisor, but you've got to look at yourself. And I've been hard. I've lost a lot of money. I've made way more than I've lost, but I think it's because of that mindset. And so I just wanted to go there a little bit with you, Lane, because I appreciate you bringing that to it. And I appreciate you sharing that. So prospective franchisees, whether you look at buying a Modern Pure Air or any other brand, you want a founder like Lane that is telling you this stuff. Too many founders, too many FSOs, too many franchise development teams aren't going to share the hard with you. If you are not getting a realistic picture like what Lane just gave you, you're probably being sold versus a two-way interview. So I appreciate you sharing
Thank
that.
you. No, I appreciate that. I think on one of your podcasts recently you spoke, or maybe it was in your Facebook group, where you speak about when you're looking at franchise brands and you want to be successful, just call the top three, right? Call the top three franchisees, follow them. Don't listen to all of the others because there's always that 80-20 rules affecting, and it's that's just it, right? The franchise systems are playbooks for success. That's really what it is, in my opinion. Follow the playbook? Great. Can you follow it? What does that mean? Action, accountability, execution, transparency, right? Getting it uncomfortable in getting out of your comfort zones because if it's not hard, then you're buying, then you should be buying a capital business that's built and spend 10 million and turnkey it. And it's probably going to come with different challenges, but startup business is extremely difficult.
This is why I have Ryan Casey, who's a top Orange Theory franchisee, coming into my franchisee mastermind group next week to talk about how he curated a group. This is called a performance group. I curated a group of about 20 franchisees within Orange Theory, and they've already kicked out some people that were complainers or they didn't bring value to the group. Kicked them out, probably good people, but kicked them out. And they have a group of people that are top performers. They might not all have top performing studios right now, but they're top performing people. And they are going to eventually have top performing studios because tough times happen. So anyway, I
I
think,
love that. That's cool.
that puts the responsibility back on the franchisee. So I love it
Yeah,
when franchisees are like that. All right, we got off on that
yeah,
tangent. I wanna get back. I wanna get
yeah.
back
Sure.
to Modern Pure Air. You know, one of the things that I think about when we look at brands to, kinda partner with, become portfolio brands at Front Street, it's, we do way more due diligence on a brand than we would if we were gonna buy it as a franchisee. So we do an amazing amount of due diligence because we only bring in 1 or 2 brands a year. And so one of the things that we were wondering about, how does this translate going from Canada to the good old US of A?
That's a great question. Here's what I think. Here's what in listening. So I know that going to the US will be challenging, and there'll be things that we probably um, don't know yet, like ductwork that runs an attic space in Florida. Okay. But at the same time, because I'm sure in Miami, like when I've been, Florida, Hawaii is my go-to spot. When I look at the HVAC systems there in houses, Airbnbs, it's all an attic space. Here in Canada, we don't do attic space HVAC systems, right? We do it all in floor. But Kelowna, where I live, we're on a lake. There's high water table, so the ductwork runs in the crawl space. So I'm like, oh, so there'll be some challenges, but that's just systems and processes, how to change cleaning techniques or use different equipment, right? That's easy to figure out. What I'm told in my network by my MBA, my mental board of advisors, Cameron Harold being one of those. John DeHart, met him in Hawaii, founder of Nurse Next Door. I don't know if you know John's story. Sat beside him in a pool 8 years ago. He didn't know who I was and opened up a convo with him. And he's like, "Are you in the US yet?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "You got to get in there, man. Because if you can do what you're doing in Canada, you guys will crush it in the US." So here's what I know. Our playbook works really, really well when we award to the right franchisee. That's critical, right? It's the big thing. Our systems and support, in my opinion, as a franchisor, are pretty top notch. You guys will start seeing that, and we'll be seeing that at as part of the FSO for us. But number three, in doing a competitive marketplace research in the US, there's not a major player in the United States still. There's a few segmented, smaller, 100 locations, 50 locations, but nobody's really come in and nailed the game. So that's all good. What makes me know that we can do it? It's our playbook, the nuggets that we have built in. So the vertical that we sell to in commercial, how do we do it? What's the sales script? What's the process? I mean, just our Modern Pura cookie box. It's called the Tiffany cookie box. It's got a Modern Pura logo on it, right? That's what we call our it's our business development program part of it. It's in the early infancy stages when a franchisee is new, but it breaks down the wall barrier on conversation when they go into a decision maker's office. Let's say a restoration company. You walk in, they're gonna have the gatekeeper at the front. If you bring freshly baked homemade cookies in from a great bakery, and it's in a Modern Pure Tiffany box, and you open that up, and there's an insert in there that says, "Why Pure Air for restoration duct cleaning?" And then it shows the 5 nuggets that a project manager eating a cookie will read, that it's speaking their language. Nobody does that in our industry. Just none. They don't even go after B2B. So I'm most excited about is if we can grow this organization in Canada to a $25 million rev system sales in Canada with the population we have. um, it's just, I have no doubt that in the US, we get the FSO group's huge, you know, holding our hands on the other side is so huge on the consulting part. That's so big for us. That was so important to me in the FSO um, part, not just somebody interested in sales and getting into an FSO hangover effect, but actually having somebody helping us with the enterprise value making decisions. Your guys' experience, you guys knowing franchising in and out, me knowing this industry, like I've left it twice and been pulled back in, and now me knowing the franchising where we have top performers, we have multi-location units that are performing well. To do it in Canada, where like honestly, what do we have? 40 million population? Come on. That's that's my lens on it, right? So again, but it comes down to, as you guys know, it's got to be the right people. When you bring that right disc and that right person in, and we award to them, boom, magic. But that's franchising, right? That's just it.
100%. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just, just recording another podcast, and this the host was asking me similar stuff, and I was regurgitating kind of like what you were just saying. Like, you've got to bring in the right people. What we like is, I mean, Brian Scudamore has done it very successfully. Went from junk in Canada to junk in the US very successfully. And they're doing what you do here in a way, but there's not a huge brand, like you were saying. And so, when I love it when a franchise system coming into, like, the United States, wide open territory, wide open, like, so many amazing territories to buy, yet has very robust, strong systems, strong playbooks that you have. It's just magic. It reminds me of, similar to Soul Salons. When I bought into Soul Salons as a franchisee, they were just happy selling to friends and family. They had a like 20 something franchisees that were doing very well and very happy. And they were just, and then all of a sudden they decided to scale and grow Soul Salon in a large way and very quickly. It was ready for it because they'd already done so much learning for years with a small group, similar to you and how you've done it. And that's one of the things that was excited us about you guys.
Well, that's great. And I mean, yeah, like we're pumped. I was gonna say, so listeners might be listening, like, so what exactly do what is indoor air quality? So like we do air
Hey,
duct
Lane, let
cleaning
me let me
starter
ask
raw.
you a
Yeah,
really
go ahead.
smart
Yeah,
question. Hey,
yeah.
Lane, what is indoor air quality?
Indoor air quality is anything to do with what you breathe. During COVID, this is what COVID did for our industry. Pre-COVID, how worried was the average adult about what they breathed in? Wasn't
Not did we
wasn't
did we didn't have masks on our face all the time. We
Yeah,
weren't thinking about it.
and you didn't know about 7-foot distancing or whatever the COVID rule was, and you didn't know about hand
I think it was
sanitizer.
6 inches in Canada and 7 feet here.
There you go. Yeah, certain parts of the States, 20 feet, right? None, 0, it was
Where
great.
I live where
But
I live,
yeah,
it's
so
yeah.
so indoor air quality is indoor air quality is anything to do with the air in a industrial, commercial, residential facility. So what does that mean? Well, you could have somebody today sitting in an office environment in a large corporation, goes to occupational health and safety or whoever it might be is and goes, I need help because every time I come into work, like my asthma goes off. And then when I go home, it goes away, but I come back to work. So then I'm at home for the weekend and I don't need my inhaler or anything. Like, what's going on in here? So then they go on and they Google indoor air quality testing, Cincinnati. And boom, whoever shows up there, great. And they call in and hopefully that company converts. And then boom, you go and you can do an IAQ test. That's one of the things we do, indoor air quality testing. The core service that built our brand is furnace and air duct cleaning, and that's cleaning the lungs of the home, right? How often do those need to get done? Well, it depends what your environment's like. If it's a hospital, it's supposed to be inspected annually. That's mandated. But if it's a residential home, if you have 8 kids, 15 dogs, and 3 chickens in the house, maybe more often. I don't know, right? But so we do furnace and air duct cleaning, dryer vent cleaning, filtration maintenance, air purification, and IAQ testing. Those are our big 5 verticals in commercial, residential, and industrial. Now, do we do it better than anybody else? I don't know. We've trademarked how we clean. It's pretty cool. But what we've built the brand around and the name Modern is in Pure Air is because I love technology. You guys know that already. But we have become the best. I have no doubt about that. The best in our space in IAQ at customer experience. So right now in Canada, this morning we just passed 8,900 5-star Google reviews. That's live on our site in Canada. That 5-star, 8,900. Our closest competitor in this lovely country of Canada has 1,900. We have franchises that have 2,000. Kelowna here, where I live, is 160,000 people. They have 3,200 5-star Google reviews. Like crazy. So our customer experience, from the clean, shiny trucks to the upfront pricing to we show you what we get out in every residential home. You don't get your vents cleaned and the big duck truck pulls away. Here's what came out each and every home. We have so many cool brand deliverables that drive through technology, customer experience. That's the easy part is the duct cleaning. hard part is the customer experience, and that's what we really drill at. Use of technology, customer experience, NPS, KPIs, metrics for that franchisee, great dashboards. What do you focus on? You want to have a business. How do you grow and scale this? We have a product called Fran Metrics we use in the back end that clinks in with QBO. So franchise partner can actually live see. We have a dashboard and it's green and red on the 5 KPIs that we know are most important for them, but without them drilling into their QBO and not knowing, right? What's your sprinter revenue? What's your labor costs, right? Those things. So that's what we do really, really, really well.
Franchisors, emerging brands out there, I would be the things that he just mentioned, the dashboards, the KPIs, those are things that are critical for your brand. I would, if you don't have those, and it's okay if you don't have those right now. You might not have them in a dashboard, but have them so you can calculate them. KPIs are so important. Franchisees knowing their financials of their on budget, off budget, things aren't working. Like you need to know your KPIs so you know what to fix. And so the franchisor knows how to help the franchisee. So this is a very, much of a sign of a brand that is not emerging, but has wide open space. So go ahead. Do you have anything to add to that, Lane?
I was gonna say, yeah, and share it. Like
Mhm.
we've built our platform, that product we use called Fran Metrics, really cool, links with QBO. It doesn't show each location because that can be an issue, but it shows and compares you. So a franchisee can log in and go, how many years have I been in business? I want to compare myself, population, how many years in business and how many sprinters, and it will pull the comparables for them. That's important because otherwise it's just head office talking, head office telling, get engagement going, showing support, right? Like, so, and yeah, it's expensive. Like as a franchisor, apps and technology can kill you. It just can. It's like adds up. But yes. And so if you're a franchisor listening and you don't have this, don't feel bad because tons don't, but learn from our mistakes. It's really important when a franchisee is struggling with profitability because that happens if you can't be transparent and help them make educated decisions that are comparables across the brand that are live right in front of them to go, hey, and it's still up to that franchisee to act like it's still their business. But man, it can really help validate when you can have difficult conversations with the franchisee about it. Be like, well, you tell me. This franchisee spending 13% on marketing and ad spend. Yes, the FA says 5, but if you wanna grow, we know it's 8 to 13. Why are you only spending 3? Hello? So, yeah,
So important. Let's talk about
yeah,
the different revenue streams because I like the
yep,
mix of B2B and B2C. So can you
yeah,
talk
man.
about the different revenue streams that you have?
Yeah, yeah, so pre-COVID, we used to say that a new franchisee, we'd strive for 80% residential, 20% commercial. Residential, we were deemed front, so we didn't have to shut down, which was all good, but everything flipped because indoor air quality became a big thing for commercial purchasers, right? They're like, "Oh, I need to care about the building. I need to care about the occupants. I need to care about my staff. Like, not everybody can get COVID in here." So it flipped. Now we're at 50-50. Even brand new Z's. Funny enough, one of our newer franchisees, he just won franchise of the year in Barrie, Ontario. He's at an 80-20, which is insane because commercial takes longer to pay. More loyal client base, but takes longer to pay. So all of the things I talked about, indoor air quality testing, filtration maintenance, duct cleaning, dry vent cleaning, those all fall under residential and commercial in their own verticals. The vertical still is the same, but where it opens the door, let's take dryer vent cleaning in commercial. So if you have a townhome complex, an apartment complex, a high-rise building, anything that's strata, is it called strata in the US? This might be new language I need to learn. Strata or HOA, homeowners
Right
association, they
away.
pay fees. HOA fee. In Canada, it's called strata fee. So HOA. So you live in an apartment, high rise. Okay. You have in-suite washers and dryers in each of those 30-story high rise. 99% of the time, those have to get cleaned every year for insurance policy. The dryer vents have to be cleaned annually. So one of the things we looked at, we're like, okay, how does that work? So we can clean them. That's not the problem. But what's the cost acquisition issue? You're dealing with a strata that normally takes 3 quotes and wants to take the cheapest alternative, right? And then the property manager for that strata, they actually have to get 3 quotes and estimates every year and revamp this. So we started thinking about the game in a different way, and this really helped shift us. This was a franchisee. Great ideas come from engaged franchisees. This was not my idea. franchise partner came to me. I actually will own it. I told them it would never work. I said, prove me wrong. They did. So here's what they did. They sat with a property manager, a project manager for the property management company here in Kelowna that handles probably 80% of these high rises here in Kelowna. Okay. They said, every year, do you have to get all these quotes for the strata every year? Like, yeah. I'm like, how much time does that take? Like, well, it takes this amount of time. They're like, so that's a pain point. Do you think that if we did a clean and we offered a PMA, so a recurring annual revenue, because they got it in every year, what if we gave them a 3, a 4, and a 5-year option? Do you think stratas would go for it? They're like, I don't know. So we tried it. And that PMA program now, every single quote's mandated. We use a great app for all of our quotes. It's locked. So franchisee can't opt into not offering it. We have to show the choices, right? But it's helped recession proof just that vertical, because most of our franchisees now have recurring revenue built in just off that one vertical. So one of our franchise partners just celebrated 1 million, not in every year, but over 3 years, 1 million in signed contracts. It's
Mm.
eco signed contract, goes out to the strata on the hook. It's budgeted. So you have this recurring revenue model that just starts to kick, because then your competition can't quote that for 3 years. Like, it just changes. So that's one of the things that we've done really, really well. Other spaces we do great, school districts are great for us. Awesome. Most school districts have this in place where they're doing coil cleaning or duct cleaning or HVAC cleaning. So we build that relationship. Universities, cities, healthcare facilities. So yeah, does that kind of answer some of your questions
No,
for you?
that's good. I like so the same reasons why we at Front Street like different brands like Modern Pure Air, same reasons why me as a franchisee would want to buy a brand. Um, so I love that. I love that I don't think we would have been as interested if it was, pre-COVID type mix of B2B to versus B2C. One of the things that I love, about founders that are a little bit more tech forward and really think about how do we help franchisees as a franchisor save money, save time, and make their KPIs or metrics better. One of our brands does it by kind of being they have an AI solution for a front desk. So it takes away the front desk person for them. You have a sales center that has amazing numbers. I don't know that we can actually talk about the numbers, but I know the numbers, and we validated the numbers. What you gave them to us, and then validated with franchisees that we spoke with, and we're just like, this is great. So I love it that you have this the sales center that's both inbound and outbound, right?
Yeah, yeah, we do some outbound, like, depending on we're building that in to become better and better, and we actually have a really cool AI tool coming out that's gonna even magnify that, or my goal is 400% on that, just on online bookings, web bookings, forms being filled out, online chat. This AI bot, you would never know it's a bot, you think it's a human, can take you full cycle and actually convert you to an online booking, which is really wild. But yeah, the sales center, in my opinion, is the most important part of the brand. And the reason being is because a world-class sales center has a 60% conversion, 60 to 70. 1,800 got junk, OTE brands. Theirs is world-class, great. Ours is 80 right now. That's way too high. So what that means to me is we need to challenge franchisees to raise their rates, and that's always a problem. People get
It
scared.
is. It is always a challenge.
And it's crazy. You're like, dude, like, even on ebbs and flows of seasonality, like, I just had a convo with one of our franchisees. September, October, November for residential, GLS pay per click doubles because the furnaces are kicking off. So residential, this quarter is always strong. And I'm like, double your rates. Like, if your GLS is gonna cost you more, double your rate, double your base rate. Like, no, I can't do that, but 3 of them did. Magically, guess what? Sure, your competition fills up first, but your competition is now full. They're booking 3 weeks out. You're the luxury brand, man. That client calling in that wants you tomorrow, you're getting, and you're getting great margin, like, do it all day long. But anywho, the sales center is most important. Why is that? Because if you're an entrepreneur and it's your first foot into small business, you'll quickly learn what your highest value is to your business. That's not answering the phone. Like, it's just not. It's in our business, 40 hours a week, B2B. Like that's the biggest thing. Go open doors, network, be in the community, get yourself in front from 8 till 4 or 9 to 5, whatever hours those are when your businesses are open there. You need to be in front and having 5 decision maker conversations a day, every single day, and you'll kill it in our business. Residential, we can do through digital, we can do through guerrilla residential marketing. That's simple. Those will come in, right? But most importantly, when they call in to here, we capture them for you. We answer them for you. We book them for you. This is a full content. We do the whole process, take care of it, and you just see bookings coming in. When I was brand new and we started switching over, because when I started, we were using hairdressing books, man. Like we didn't have software. It's crazy. And then we'd email every franchise partner their schedule the next day out of this hairdressing book, like a column, right? Anyway, when franchises are brand new, some of them, I love hearing this. They're like, yeah, I want to get the email every time there's a booking. Because like, that's a win, right? They're out hunting until it's like, holy, no, I don't. Like, I get it. Like, you guys are filling. That's great. But most importantly, every single phone call, because we own of our phone lines and we own the software, is recorded. So if your technician in PURAIR gets to a house, does a walkthrough upfront rates, and that homeowner goes, oh, that's not what I was told. We give you the power as the franchisee to have your technician go and sit in that Sprinter and listen to the conversation and then deal with it how they want to be customer centric, right? But we have all of those things taking place. So if you're a great entrepreneur that can hustle and move, you never have to worry about your front end staff. You never have to worry about somebody being on sick leave. You don't have to worry about having an office space at the start. A couple years in, more trucks, sure, but you don't have to worry about a front desk person. You don't have to worry about kid leave and sick leave and paternity leave and like people answering. And this is all we do. We train and get these agents to be superstars at answering the phones and giving a hug at the end of the conversation. So I think it's critical. Recently I had a garage door. It's funny because I brought that up with the 1-800. It's probably why I ran, but I had a garage door spring go and I Googled 3 garage door companies here. And I've never done this in Kelowna before because how often does a garage door go? And one was, I think, Garage Door, which seemed like a franchise, went on their website, called the local number, rang 8 times, went to voicemail. Cool. Other one rang 5 times. Other one rang 5 times. Like none of them answered. I'm like, this is crazy. Emailed one, right? Took 3 days till somebody called me back. As a franchisor, we have that control. Like we take care of this for you. And if you're an entrepreneur and you're the owner and you're in charge of B2B, you shouldn't worry about your phone ringing. Like if a high level project manager calls in, man, that you've pitched that you're the best and you're the greatest and customer centric, how can you be spending another 2 hours with somebody else? Your phone's ringing, it's going to voicemail. Like you can't do that. So the call center, the sales center, as we call it, it's so good. I think it's the biggest differentiator that really helps people scale
We
fast.
loved it. We got behind the technology and behind everything and validated that, and yeah, I mean, it was, it's game changer. That's what franchisees today need from their franchisors. You know,
Yeah.
I just, 5 years from now, I think every franchisor, it's like they should have this. It should be part of the solution,
Well,
and
and
they go ahead.
I was going to say, and there's unfortunately like franchisors, there's good and bad. And then
Mhm.
there's franchisors that they do say they have one, and I was testing them in the US because I was challenged. And okay, yeah, they say they have one, but like no. And I won't name the brands, but like so there's a right way of doing it and there's a wrong. So make sure if you're a franchisee, whether pure or anything, do your diligence, man. Like hammer that. Like honestly, because like you can get pitched by anybody and be like, oh yeah, that's the greatest thing in the world by the Zor. But like, you
I
know,
know.
yeah,
Last
yeah,
question for you, because I
yeah,
know that, we're running up against the
yeah.
deadline. Last question is, what does the team look like, the franchisee, their team, franchisee buys, what is their team like? And how do they grow and scale? What's the role of the franchisee? When do they bring in a tech and a biz dev person and whatnot? So
Great
does that
question.
have a playbook on that?
We do. Yeah, we call that the 0 to 500. So our org charts are built on the first phase, the infancy stage, 0 to 500. The faster we get you to 500,000 rev, the better you go to 500 to 1 million and then the million plus, right? So our real goal is to get you to that million plus because then you have a real business. Honestly, all respect to anybody under 1 million. you have a business, but it's not really, you can't leave the business. You can't tweak and play. And, hiring an ops person doesn't save you money because your margin isn't there, right? Like it's just those things. But 0 to 500, the playbook, what does it look like? Well, first and foremost, depends on what the owner is wanting. If that owner is going to be that person selling the B2B, and we've awarded to them because that's in their DNA and they're comfortable with that, awesome. That's that owner's seat. So on opening date, sure, they've done their technician training, they've taken care of those things, but they should have at least one, if not two technicians for their opening date with their first Mercedes Sprinter truck, right? When you get to 15 to 20K in revenue monthly for 2 to 3 months, that's your trigger for your second truck. So $500,000 business, we fast start them and get them as quick as we can. At that $500,000 mark, based off the org chart, 2 sprinters. We don't run 2 technicians per sprinter, but we tell on the org charts, have 2 technicians per sprinter on your org chart so you can double cycle that. Because that sprinter can run evenings and weekends and day. So that's 2 technicians running that same store. Each sprinter is a store in my mind, right? And at that point, you would have the B2B person. So that seat holder, which should be the owner, driving that B2B to that $500,000 mark. And you would likely, all you would need is those. So 2 sprinters, 4 technicians, that B2B person, and your junior ops/trainer person. That's your highest level technician. The guy that knows the game inside and out might not be the best technician, but is the best for culture and or ops. And that's where you start grooming that. So that's it at that point. And you're home based. Go to that next level, changes. Does that help?
That helps. All right,
Yeah.
man. Well, look forward to seeing you in a bit, face to face.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
thanks for
Yeah.
coming on the pod.
Pumped. Thanks for having me on, Eric. Appreciate it, man. Awesome.
Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.